Now, I went rooting through the old stockpile of tanks that I've got there. This tank here is quite often sold as one for goldfish by pet stores all over the world. This size looks like as if, you know, a little goldfish might fit in it just fine. And it will at the very start, but it won't last very long because goldfish will outgrow this in no time, but long before they outgrow it, they'll poop themselves to death in here. This is just not big enough. You're gonna have so much work to do if you get a small tank for your goldfish. Let's talk about the right size tank that you're gonna need to keep a goldfish, 2 goldfish. Take a look at that so you can get the right setup going for you and your goldfish. Keep them happy and healthy so you can enjoy your hobby and not spend all day either cleaning these or unfortunately picking goldfish that are unalive out of them. That is worst case scenario. That is a bad day and I've seen it so many times. Wow. Now this is that same tank with a tennis ball for reference. And this is the size tank that you're gonna need. Something much, much bigger. Now this will do 2 goldfish. And I do recommend 2 goldfish because they do like each other's company. This is a 40-gallon long, and this is one of the ones that I have in my, I got a couple of spare tanks. Never throw away a good tank. Hold on to it. You know, you never know when you're gonna need one. Hospital tanks, that kind of thing, that's another story now. But this here, this is the size tank you're gonna need for 2 goldfish. Now, I appreciate completely that when you were starting off in a new hobby, something like fish keeping, it seems like a big stretch. It would be so much easier if you get the small tank and get set up that way, but it's not. Unfortunately, with goldfish, small tanks don't work. And small tanks, they're expert level tanks. The smaller the body of water, the more maintenance you have to do, the more you need to know about, the more chemistry that you're gonna have to get involved in. If you wanna keep fish in a small tank, there are fish that you can keep in them, but not goldfish. It's not going to last for long. And you may have heard about people who've kept goldfish in an aquarium for years that was only this size or a bowl. Fortunately for that goldfish, it lived a miserable life. It was probably hurting all day. It's not a competition to keep a goldfish in the most miserable condition for the longest. It's about giving them a happy, healthy life, and that's how you're going to enjoy your goldfish, because a miserable goldfish is going to sit there and do nothing. And we've all seen those goldfish in pet stores and in small tanks and aquariums. A happy, healthy goldfish is going to rush up to the tank to meet you. It's going to be super interactive. It's going to be a fun pet to keep. So definitely, if you're going to go for something small like that, no, you're going to have trouble. Don't do it. Wait if you need to. Get yourself set up with something a bit bigger. 20 gallons for 1 goldfish. That's the minimum size you're looking at. Don't go smaller, because if you do, you're going to have an absolute nightmare, but not as big a nightmare as your goldfish is going to have.
And look, I know you're going to see tons of stuff on the internet where there are loads of goldfish in aquariums. You'll also see it in pet stores. You'll even see it on my pages. Like this tank, for example. I've got about 200 baby goldfish. But the reason I'm able to keep all these guys in here together is I'm doing at least 3 of these water changes every single day. I'm getting up in the middle of the night and feeding these guys and doing water changes. It's purely for growth. It's short term. And that's before these guys go out into a much bigger aquarium or into a pond. And the great thing about aquariums is once you've got them, they last years and you can repurpose them. In this case, I've put a 120 litre aquarium upside down on some bricks inside of a 370 litre aquarium, bringing the volume up to nearly 500 litres. And then I've moved all those baby goldfish into it. So they've gone from a 40 gallon long to a 500 litre aquarium for their next growth phase before they went into the bigger pond. And also, this setup was just amazing. This was so fun to watch them in. There's all sorts of things that you can do. You've also seen other stuff if you've been looking at my pages where I've got lots of goldfish in the aquarium. In this particular setup, that was actually attached to the pond. So the water going into that was going from the pond in. So that was part of a much bigger system. So it wasn't being filtered by a tiny filter. It was being filtered by that massive bunch of plants on the right hand side. Plus, I was able to rotate those fish around so they were never in it for particularly long. They always went back in the pond.
So one of the things that I don't see talked about enough is the fact that putting goldfish into tiny aquariums is a genuine animal welfare issue. These guys want to explore all of the aquarium all day long, looking for food. They're an opportunistic omnivore by nature, so that means they don't hunt food. They kind of have to wander around looking for it. They'll do that all day. That's in their nature, and if that's not available for them in a larger scale, they'll get bored really quickly. In a pond like this, they'll explore every single part of it multiple times throughout the day. Even when they're not really feeding at cold times like this, just because that's what they do. It's their very nature. You put them into a small setup, they get bored really quickly. If you've got 2 in a small setup, it's worse again because you got double the poop. But even if that was being handled by a filter, massive filter external, even if you took all that into account, a smaller setup will have them so bored that they'll end up nipping at each other's fins. You'll get one that maybe gets a bit more aggressive than the other. And you'll end up with an unalived goldfish ultimately at the end of the day. It happens all the time. I see it so much. I have no fish that interfere with each other in these ponds because they have enough space. They have all of the things that they need to do. They can explore, they can wander around. There's all crevasses in here that they can explore in and see if there's food. They've always got something to do. When I wasn't able to do ponds though, and I'm always mindful of that, you're not going to be in a position to do a pond starting off most likely. It might be quite difficult even to get permission to have an aquarium. And it does seem like a really big stretch going for that kind of big aquarium, plus it's more expensive. And in some places like Ireland, they're very expensive, which is why I never try out a good aquarium. I always keep them there. But I would say, if you're not in a position to get that big aquarium and to get that setup going, it might not be the right time yet, and goldfish may not be the fish for you. There are other options out there, and I know that's not necessarily what people want to hear when they want to get a pet, but there are other fish out there which are great alternatives. A 40-litre tropical tank, say for example, with a bunch of tetras is going to be an easier one to keep, for sure, like absolutely no doubt, than a small goldfish aquarium, 100%. So I would say, think about whether or not you can give them the right setup, because if you have them happy and healthy, they'll be super interactive. They'll want to come up and feed from your hand. They'll react to you when you walk into the room. They'll be jumping at the surface. They'll be in great form all the time. That's what you want from your... This is an ornamental pet. You want them to interact with you as much as possible, not sitting there listless at the bottom of the aquarium. That's why people find goldfish boring, and they're not boring. These are great pets. Just need the right situation for them to really flourish. And I think it's really important that, we give them the best setup we can. And in most cases, that means 2 things. The biggest aquarium we can, and an adequate filtration system. These guys are going to be happy and healthy, and you're going to have a great time keeping goldfish. I mean, look at this lady. She wouldn't even fit in that aquarium. She genuinely wouldn't. She's absolutely massive. She's about 5 years old, and she's got a lot of life left in her. She is huge. That's what you can expect when you've got a goldfish. So I hope at this point you kind of get an idea of why it's so important to have a bigger aquarium for your goldfish. Forget about the goldfish bowl. It's a myth. It doesn't even exist. And at the end of the day, your goldfish being happy and healthy makes them more active, more colourful, more enjoyable. They're just a more entertaining pet, and something that you're going to be able to enjoy for years and years to come. You won't need to be worrying about fishing out goldfish that are unalived, because it's devastating. It's super disappointing. It's something that I've seen so many times over the years, and then you're replacing fish and you're losing fish and you're like, why? The size of the aquarium is a variable that you're completely in control of, and at the end of the day, it's just important for their well-being as well as your own to just get the best setup you can, so you spend less time doing maintenance and more time just enjoying your fish. Guys, I hope this helped. In the next video, I'm going to be talking a bit about filtration systems. There are a few different types of filters that you can set up. Like I said, I use sponge filters on a lot of my aquariums, but there are a variety of other ones, and like what you can see over here in the background, that is a giant canister filter. There are smaller ones available for your aquariums, and I'm going to talk about those in the next video in this series on keeping goldfish for beginners. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button, hit that, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.